Hey guys, Pete here from 10 Spot Tools, home of your favorite modular toolbox organizers. We recently made a bunch of new stuff for electricians, so we figured we'd make a nice long video that shows everything and explains how it all works and how it all works together rather than do several short videos. So first let's start with this. We have a pack out small toolbox here, all right, and as our labels indicate, we've got an M12 cable stripper on one side and an M12 cable cutter on the other side. All right, we are offering our toolbox latches, toolbox inserts rather, with either one or two latches, and this is why we offer inserts with just one latch, so you could have different latches on either side. Okay, so here we have the M12 cable stripper. Now this has the entire 17-piece copper die set in here. I also added an extra hole for a die, even though there's not an extra one in the set, because you could mix and match your copper and aluminum dies in here. The other thing is it makes a really nice finger grab hole. Makes it very easy to remove this tray if you keep the one in the middle empty. So I figured it wouldn't hurt having an extra die hole that also allows you to do that. Underneath the tray, you have lots of room. Okay, so here's the new M12 right angle die grinder, for example, fits in there great. You can fit an M12 impact driver in that spot. M12 drill doesn't quite fit, but you could definitely fit a ratchet in there. So there's a bunch of different options to make the most of your space underneath that die tray. The M12 stripper here has a battery on it, and obviously there's loads of room underneath the tray if you want to put some extra batteries in there or whatever. All right, so that is the cable stripper side of the insert. Now over here we have the M12 cable cutter. This is not a tool that lends itself to using a ton of accessories. Maybe you want to keep an extra set of blades with it or something, or again, you have room in this spot right here, or even in this spot down here, for extra batteries or what have you, electrical tape, I don't know, your favorite cable stripping knife, whatever. There's lots of room in here. Now there's two different versions of this insert. The one you see here is the maxi version, and this has these wells that go all the way up to the lid, and then that way you can store things in there, prevent them from falling out. Obviously there's a lot more plastic in this version than there's the other one, so it's a lot more expensive. But we can take our stripper out, and we can take our stripper insert out, just so I could show you guys the other version, which is this guy right here. So the first version we had in there was called the maxi version. This one is called the mini version. Okay, the mini version slots in right here. Now, depending which side of the case you put this on, it sits a little different. So the mini version comes with these little black retainers in it that help hold it in place. So if you have it on the right side of the box, you want to use both retainers. If you have it on the left side of the box, you only need one of them. There's actually instructions printed on the bottom of the insert that show you how that works. So you don't have to remember anything. You can always just look at the bottom of the insert, and just so you can see how the tool sits in there, it sits very much the same way in the mini as it does in the maxi. The only difference is you don't really have any spots that come up all the way up to the lid. So if you want to store extra stuff in here, you're going to want it to be like bigger stuff, where you're not worried about it, you know, falling all over the place or whatever. All right, so that is our M12 cable cutter. Obviously fits in there with a large format battery on it. Okay, but now we could take this out. And then we have a separate insert right here, and this one is for the M18 cable stripper. This can also go in the toolbox here. All right, so that will hold your M18 cable stripper like this. Okay, it has its own separate die tray, which has just about the same amount of room under it as the other one does, where you could fit something like an impact driver or a die grinder underneath it. It has the same extra hole, but it fits the entire 17-piece copper die set, and it has one extra hole. Just a note on the dies, right? So the copper and aluminum dies, they only really come in two sizes. I mean, as far as the outside of the die is concerned. Okay, there are only two different outside diameters, so we're just going to call them big dies and small dies. So here's one of the aluminum dies right here, and you can see if we sit on top of one of the copper dies, the outside diameters are the same at the top, they're the same at the bottom. So between aluminum and copper, you only have big dies and small dies. Any hole that's made for a copper die can also accommodate an aluminum die, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, that takes care of all the toolbox stuff that I wanted to show you today, and we're going to move on to the drawers in just a second. Alright, so now let's take a look at our drawer setups for some of these electrician's tools. So first we have here, this is in a 3-drawer pack out. We have our M12 cable stripper and our M12 cable cutter, and this all fits in one drawer of the 3-drawer pack out. Now obviously the cutter takes up a lot more room than the stripper does. So in this case we made optional die trays that go in the cutter insert in case you want to keep your cutter and your stripper in the same drawer, because there's not really enough room with the stripper to keep them in there. Okay, so you could get the insert for the cutter with or without the die trays. All right, you're really only going to want the die trays if you also want to keep your stripper in the same drawer. But that's not all. And now you can see here the other version of our drawer setup. So maybe you have both strippers. Maybe you got the M12 and the M18. Obviously, you're not going to need to carry around 2 entire die sets with them. Okay, so we have, these are all separate inserts. So you could get just this guy if you want, and that holds just the M12 stripper. You could get just this guy if you want, and that holds just the M18 stripper and the 1 battery. Okay, and you could get just this one if you want, and that holds just the dies. And you can mix and match these however you like. So if you have your stripper in a drawer and you don't have your cutter in there, we have this separate tray that keeps just the dies in it. And you could just get 2 of these, take up 2/3 of the drawer, or just 1 if you prefer. We even have a little kind of cutout right here in the stripper tray to accommodate just the lip on the battery there to make sure we can fit the battery in. All right, so that is, I think, the last of the options we have for this. So just to recap everything, that is M12 stripper in a drawer, M18 stripper in a drawer, dies in a drawer. Then we also have our M12 cutter with an optional die tray if you want to keep your M12 cutter in a drawer with 1 of your strippers. And then for the toolbox, we have separate inserts for the M12 and M18 strippers, and we also had 2 different versions of the insert for the M12 cable cutter. So this should be a really nice way to get yourself set up if you're an electrician. Thanks for watching, guys.